This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, with the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Well, it's a great day here at Sports 225. By coincidence, not by choice. It's not like Glenn Guilbeau and I said to each other, hey, what you wearing on the show? And we both have on gray stuff. So it's good. It's also show 225 of Sports 225. So congratulations to me.
Wow, interesting.
You remember when we made the switch from Sports Monday to Sports 225?
I do.
Yeah. So
Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, right. So Glenn was going to be on the show a couple weeks ago, and he got snowed out. That was the week we had to go to the best of. Went into the vault and pulled out a show about Will Wade, the LSU basketball coach that we had from right before the start of the season. And that's actually where I want to start. Now, if you know me and you know the show, you know we don't prep. We don't ever say, what are we going to talk about? But I do want to talk about LSU basketball, but tie it into the bigger picture without seeing either one of us hanging ourselves. So, you know, in the past few months, sexual assault, sexual harassment has risen to the forefront because of starting with Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
And then all the stuff with USA Gymnastics. And it's
Michigan
snowballed,
State.
right, and it's so much of it. And now, this week, there's been a lot of talk because somebody on a website, not in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but then it's become a talk here about how one of the players that LSU has signed was accused of rape, but no charges were filed.
Right.
And another player who's coming was accused as well. And
I thought it was just one. You're saying it's two?
It's two. There's
Okay.
a slippery slope. There's a
Okay.
Williams and a Bigby Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I think that's a little different because, yes, they were accused, but it was looked into and no charges were filed. And Wade made a statement back at the time when they recruited him. So that was kind of over with. So, you know, I don't know how valid it is to bring it up with this because this Michigan State is much different. But yeah, I mean, you know,
you put yourself
red
in
flags.
a
Yeah, you
somewhat
do put
tenuous
yourself
and precarious situation, right? By bringing in any athlete who's had
that kind of a charge. Yeah,
any kind of you know,
accusation.
Yeah, but especially in this case, in this climate, it puts you on a very fine line, and you hope that these young men, once they get to LSU, will be, you know, will toe the line. Exactly.
Well, I mean, it looks like that Wade is not putting up with a lot of stuff. I mean, he just disciplined 4 players. We don't know the total reason, but 2 of the ones that are suspended and won't play at Tennessee or didn't play at Tennessee Wednesday. Part of that, and I think the main reason they were suspended was because they were in this video by a Baton Rouge rapper whose name escapes me right now. But they really weren't doing that much in the video. It looks like they were smoking and drinking, but you know, it could have been
simulated
grape juice. It could have been a cigarette, you know. But you know, I guess he maybe sends out the wrong message or something. But that's just 1 game suspension, and then 2 other players are well, one was kicked out of the program, Alexander from Brobridge and Lafayette Christian, and another one was just ended for the rest of the season for disciplinary rules, which probably is a marijuana situation. I'm just guessing.
Well, yeah, and you bring me into that because whenever there's something concrete, like if there's an assault and battery or something, there's a criminal charge. You know, there's a record of it.
That's a little more serious.
And you can well, that's not where I'm going with this though. So there's a criminal charge and it's reported, and you can report on it. When they don't tell you, when they don't tell you what it is, right or wrong, in today's world, I naturally just assume that it's a drug violation.
Right.
It may not be in the case, but whenever they don't tell you because they have privacy rights and all that, and I get that, but that's what I assume. Don't you
Yeah.
assume the same thing?
Yeah, and there's really not a lot of other things it could be. I guess it could be grades, academics, but you usually hear that. You know, so it's kind of a flawed system because you can almost automatically assume and be right 99% of the time. It's either drugs or alcohol. You know, because they're set. And you can tell by the number of games suspended sometimes too, because there's a set number of games for the first offense, second offense, and then third offense you're supposed to be kicked off. So you can usually put 2 and 2 together.
When I first started in this business, long before most of you were born, there was just sports. And then as I went along, there were so many more things that we just had to learn about as sports writers.
Yeah,
You know,
and now the new thing is leave of absence. You know, Arden Key was the first LSU player I've heard to have that. And now Will Wade termed some of these for, you know, leave of absence. You know, you think a leave of absence, that's like a sabbatical to go study or something. Now it's being used for punishment. You know, so it's a wrong term to use. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, whatever. You know, I'm going to take a leave of absence here in a second.
Yeah.
Glenn Guilbeau.
Obviously because of drugs.
Right. And not enough of them. Glenn Guilbeau covers LSU in the SEC for the Gannett News Service. He is not only an accomplished sports writer, but an award-winning one. And when he was supposed to come on a couple of weeks ago, we were going to talk about one of those awards that he got at the national championship game and the Football Writers Association festivities that go along with it. So let's start there when we get back.
Okay,
All
sure
right,
thing.
good. He's Glenn Guilbeau. I'm Lee Feinswag from Sports 225.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
We're back on Sports 225, hanging out with Glenn Guilbeau. He covers LSU and the SEC for the Gannett News Service. You can follow him at LSU Beat Tweet. And we were telling some stories in the break, the kind that unfortunately we can't ever tell on the air. But we have seen, you know, like those insurance commercials. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
And read a few police reports.
We have seen a lot of indiscretions over the years. And,
Sure.
and you know, it's just unfortunate, but for whatever reasons, and I hearken back to the Chuck Noll statement of like 1976 when he was coaching the Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers,
yes.
and said, you know, there's a criminal element. And he intimated too that you had to have it to be successful.
Well, he was talking about the Raiders, though. He was saying there was
Yeah,
a criminal element to the Raiders.
Right, but then
Yeah.
he had to admit there was one to his own team when he got to a court of law. And he ended up getting sued by Mel Blount, one of his players, the great player who played at Southern University. And they ended up working it all out. But this is not a new thing. And in case you're wondering where we're going with this, if you just tuned in, well, in the last segment we talked a little bit about some LSU basketball players' indiscretions. But that's not why
But
I
not
brought you here
arrested.
tonight.
They weren't not arrested.
Right.
But there's a difference. But
Right,
go ahead.
exactly. Yeah. But well, and part of the criminal element he was talking about then was just the way they played the game. They were dirty players.
Yeah, I don't remember the Steelers being dirty. Mel Blount maybe, but the Raiders had the dirty reputation, especially against Lynn Swann. Well, you see some of those hits now. These guys would be kicked out of the league. But Mel Blount, I don't even know if Mel Blount was seen as dirty, but he was definitely seen as a wicked hitter.
Yeah. Well, they had that big lineman and
Mean Joe Green. And,
no, I'm thinking of the Raiders, who was he was in the longest yard.
Well, and Jack Tatum was the main one who was really seen as dirty.
Yeah, well, that's part of that was because of that hit he hit on Darryl Stingley. Yeah.
But he
whose
hit
son,
Lynn Swann a
whose
lot, too.
grandson, Derek Stingley, is a high-level recruit, and he made an official, they have a special Junior Day visit where he was at LSU the other day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
You following recruiting also interesting.
It's just on Twitter. I couldn't avoid it. Sorry.
Well, that's a great thing about this year, man. There's no signing day. There's no Bayou Bash. You know, which you had to cover for me one year when the Saints
Yep.
went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because they had the early signing date, and so
That's just gone with the wind,
it's
huh?
gone with the wind.
Wow.
LSU's going to sign like 3 or 4 guys. It's a note.
Well, anyway, back at the National Championship game, it coincides with the Football Writers Association of America annual gathering where its members and its writing award winners all get together. And one of them was young Glenn Guilbeau.
Well, I thank you.
National Story of the Year for?
Column of the year
Yeah.
for USA Today Network.
And the subject matter was?
It was written the day Ed Orgeron got the job. It was written the early morning that he got the job, because that was on a Saturday morning that broke. And Michelle and I were in a Houston hotel room because she came with me, and we went to the what is that big fair they have in Houston? They have it's like a German fair thing. They have one in Hammond too. But anyway, and we were supposed to go to that day, and then that happened.
So you did not go?
No,
did you
we
send
did
her
not.
on her own?
We had some other relatives there. Her dad was there. And so she went to that. But anyway, I wrote that column about the Coach Orgeron hire, and it was not flattering of Coach O. But I did mention in the column that Dabo Swinney was a similar hire. At the time it was seen as what are you doing? The difference is the Clemson AD Terry Don Phillips used to be at UL. Actually hired Les Miles at Oklahoma State. He actually interviewed some other coaches, and then among those chose Swinney. Whereas Oliva, I don't know if he interviewed anyone. He just got mad because he couldn't hire Herman, and then just fell back on Orgeron, as opposed to interviewing more people. Should have interviewed Jimbo Fisher, and should have hired Jimbo Fisher, but that's another story. But anyway, we didn't rerun that column much because it was really popular, against the hiring of Orgeron. But anyway, that is what won.
Well, there you go. First time to win a first-place national award? Because you've won Louisiana Sports Writers Association awards.
Well, actually, I won 2 firsts the year before in the same contest. One was for Leonard Fournette spending 5 days on the Causeway Bridge by the Superdome after Katrina and his family. I did.
Was that a Katrina anniversary story too?
It was. It was a Katrina anniversary story and so that was last year. Came out last year. It came out in 15, but the awards was in 16 year, 17, and then there was also a column I won that year and placed in second in something else, and then years ago I won a first APSC for Toe Nash. You remember Toe Nash, the player from Sorrento, that was a Sid Finch type thing.
Yeah, but he was real.
He was real, yeah, but he didn't make it,
Yeah.
And but I won that at the Advocate.
I remember the Toe Nash story.
Matt Randolph, you remember Matt Randolph helped me a lot with that, with editing that story and getting it in, because there was a lot of people at the paper, not just the head guy. There's a lot of people at the paper didn't really want it in, because it was hugely long.
Right.
And it was about a guy who had a criminal background or whatever, but it was a story, and Matt and I won, and there were some people on vacation when we got it in.
Well, just as an aside, my second year at the Advocate in 1986, I wrote in what turned out to be like a 95-inch, which, if you know newspaper, very long.
Yeah, this was in that range.
Mine was a first-person story about the Huey Long swimming pool at LSU.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And that story never would have gotten in had it not been the middle of summertime and some people were on vacation.
Yeah, and you see, and that story was difficult to write. Whereas like the Toe Nash story, it almost wrote itself. I mean, it took a lot of work, but I mean, it's a story before you start writing it. Whereas that thing you wrote, I mean, you had to be creative to get into that.
I got into a lot of old libraries and talked to a lot of people who were very old for that one. Anyway, just before we go to break, the Huey Long swimming pool, which has been boarded up, you may have seen it in Pitch Perfect, the original. Early on in that movie, there's a sing-off actually inside the pool. That pool now that whole building's in such decrepit shape. There's a tree growing in the middle. It's
my wife swam in that pool when she was a little kid.
Oh yeah,
because she lived with her parents in married student housing.
Yeah,
in the early '80s.
Magnificent place, but now it's just all going to be ultimately demolished in that area. It's adjacent to the Assembly Center. It's going to be a water feature.
It's a cool looking pool.
It was unbelievable.
At the time, it was.
Yeah. More about that pool and some of the things he talked about than you probably ever bargained for. He's Glenn Guilbeau. I'm Lee Fine. So when we get back, we'll keep talking about sports stuff, but I have no idea what. This is Sports 225.
You see that? That's a trash can. It's a special place where trash goes. Not here, not here, not here. Is that a diaper? You know, the best part about the special place called Trash Can is there's not just one. There are trash cans everywhere. I'm the human dislike button, and I believe in you. I believe in your ability to find a trash can. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
We're back on Sports 225, hanging out with Glenn Guilbeau. He covers LSU and the SEC for the Gannett News Service. You can read his stuff not only in the Lafayette Daily Advertiser, but also at USA Today. And on my app for USA Today, I have it so that you can affiliate with a local paper. So I don't read the Daily Advertiser per se, but you can get the top stories from it. So sometimes your stuff pops up for me on that app.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Not good, not bad for a guy like you being national and winning national awards. And,
Well,
and
thank
people
you.
give you more crap too. You get more crap. This guy gets more crap from sports fans. You know, like you wrote something, I saw something where somebody tweeted one of the stories you wrote in the last couple of weeks about LSU football. And you said something very favorable about something. And somebody,
yeah, and they were like, "Is he setting this up?"
Yeah, like somebody go, look at this.
Oh no, I know what that was. That was I thought Ensminger was a good hire.
Yeah.
I thought Steve Ensminger was a good hire, and they said, "Oh, he's just they're towing the party line there." You know, this is proof that they're all towing the party line.
You know, I want to tell you, if you're an LSU football fan, Steve Ensminger is the least of your problems. Number one, I think Steve Ensminger, I agree with you. This is a guy with an incredible football resume and football mind, and he's been on all sides of it.
Yeah.
He's been an offensive coordinator. He's worked at a whole bunch of schools with success.
And a long time ago, but really the game hasn't changed that much. They just changed the terms of it, you know, spread and all this. I mean, they ran a spread with
Now it's
Eric
called.
Zaire.
It used to be you hand the ball off to a guy coming around, and it was called an end around.
Yeah, now it's a jet sweep.
Now, jet sweep.
And it's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is exactly
Exactly.
the same thing. So
But-
yeah,
but
and the Wildcat was the single wing.
Yeah, but in the case of Steve Ensminger, I don't know who's considered the greatest offensive coordinator of all time. I mean, like Don Coryell, you know,
At LSU or
anywhere. Gary
Croton.
Croton in his prime. I don't care who. If you don't have the
Don
players,
Coryell is a good pick.
that's my first.
Sean
one that came to
Payton
mind.
is a good pick
Sean Payton.
as offensive coordinator.
Oh, okay.
You know.
All right.
I mean, his offense is like number one every year
Yeah.
almost since he's been with the Saints.
But why? Because he's always had, and especially the last decade, a great quarterback.
Well, yeah, part of it.
You know,
Drew
if
Brees.
you don't have
Sure.
a great offensive line, talented running back, and a really, really good quarterback, it doesn't make any difference. You can get by. And in the case of LSU next year, there's every reason to think that it's going to be a very bad offense.
Yeah, I mean they don't have a great running back coming back that we know of. One could develop. The offensive line looks okay, and Ensminger sounds like he's going to throw it. You know, because he says that's where the talent is at wide receiver, which is funny because that's what I thought the talent was last year. You know, in addition to Geis, but Matt Canada seemed not to like the receivers, so it's going to be interesting to see what Ensminger does. And Miles Brennan, you know, the people there's some people at LSU that are really high on Brennan, and maybe he is good, but you know, I'll believe it when I see it. You know, but if he's good, that could make all the difference.
Let me give you a suppose, though. So LSU ended up going 9-4. Okay, this past year, right? Right.
They were
9-3 and lost a bowl.
I thought they were 8-4, maybe 9-4. Okay.
Okay.
It's all a blur.
It's all a blur. With that being said, and of course you don't know that going in, but at some point during the season, don't you wish that you had played Miles Brennan more and given him more quarterbacking
Yeah,
seasoning
I
for
wrote
this year?
that a few times during the season, but you know, I think it's great that they stuck with Etling because I thought Etling was pretty good. I thought he was better than than most.
He had a really nice year.
He did. He had really good numbers. Pass efficiency numbers. He had some of the best. He had the best pass efficiency numbers at LSU since Mettenberger in 2013. But he didn't throw the ball as well as Mettenberger. There's no question. And he missed a lot of passes, especially at Alabama. But he had a lot of drops too. But I thought that Orgeron wanted to make sure he won as many games as he possibly could this year in case things go south this coming season. I think that was
to buy himself
part of the reason. Yeah,
cushion.
Yeah, because again, that's just a guess. Because he did go to a nice bowl, Citrus Bowl. So if they drop to 6-6 or 7-5 next year, it'll be a little more fathomable. But I don't know. I think regardless of what happens, I think he's going to get a third year unless they win like 2 games next year or something. Right. But they could be in that 6-7 win range next year.
There was a time 10 years ago where you just couldn't even project LSU being a 500 team or a game over 500.
No, but they've really fallen, and if you look at it, they're averaging 3 to 4 losses a year every year since 2012. And 2012 that team was actually pretty good. It still lost 3 games, but since then, from 13 on, they've really been average to above average. Going to the Music City Bowl and a Texas Bowl, and they changed head coaches, but they've really kept just about everything else the same.
Yeah, and just to finish with that, you're looking at a team that's basically like 17 to 25 in the rankings.
Yeah,
it's still a really good football program, but not one that's knocking on the door.
Notch. Yeah, they're no longer even close to elite.
Luckily for you, there's not much time left. We got to get this break in. We'll get in the last segment. He's Glenn Guilbeau. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
See that angry soccer mom over there? Giving the referee 2 earfuls? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too.
Rule Section 2, Part 1B, if a team does not display quality sportsmanship during the regular season, they may be barred from future sports opportunities.
Gotta remember, even though they make convincing canaries, referees are people too. It's important to keep your cool and use sportsmanship in every situation. I'm the human dislike button, but one thing I do like is following the rules. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225, Glenn Guilbeau's here. Thanks to John Williams from Think JCW for directing the show. If you go to sports225.com, you can get the show listings. You can read promos about the shows before they occur, and you can see the archived shows for Sports 225 TV, our YouTube channel, including last week's show with Will Harris of the Houston Astros, who I know you're a huge Astros fan. You felt
defending
great.
national champion Astros.
And you covered. I had you on after.
World Series,
yeah, exactly. Had you on after the World Series, but they should be really good again.
Oh yeah, their core is so young and talented. It looks like they'll be good for years. They're a pretty young team.
Yeah. So busy.
Yankees are too, though.
Yeah. Busy spring for Glenn Guilbeau. He's got LSU spring football. He's got the start of LSU baseball season. He's got Jazz Fest, and you got the start of the Astros season.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be at Jazz Fest. Just Bonnie Raitt, Eric Lindell, to name a few.
It's fun.
We'll be there.
One of the things that Glenn and I have in common, a love for music and live music and all that. All right, LSU spring football in 10 seconds or less.
Wow. Miles Brennan and Lil Narcisse. We get to see both of those guys getting most of the snaps, so that'll be interesting.
Every spring, every fall, it's all we talk about. Who's going to be the quarterback for LSU? How they're going to do. Read Glenn Guilbeau's stuff at Gannett.com. You can also see him at USA Today, the Lafayette Daily Advertiser, someplace out of New Orleans, WWL-TV. And follow him on Twitter at LSU Beat Tweet. I'm Lee Feinswag. Thanks for watching Sports 225.
You touch on the
No, I didn't.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry.